ready. There you go, just shortly after classes started. The other feature that you probably want to know about is the chat feature, and that's down on the bottom or on the top depending upon your device. And if you just go to the chat, and you should have some options of sending a chat privately to somebody, or you can send a chat to everybody. And I just said hi to everybody using the chat feature. And those are really your two. There's lots of different things that you can do with this, and I'll show you a couple of them as we go along just in the course of what we're going to do tonight. But those are really the ones that you need to be aware of. All right, so I'm going to mute everybody. You still have the option of unmuting yourself. And if you don't have your camera up, you should get your camera up and going. That's the funnest part of all of this, is that we get to see everybody's faces in addition to hearing you. And if you're on the computer and you do have it on gallery view, you're going to see that you've got 2 pages and multiple pages for everybody. All right, so is everybody good with all that? Anybody have any questions to start with? All right, so I don't want to keep you any longer than we have to tonight, because as great as this particular format truly is in delivering and doing information, we taught classes this way for about 3 or 4 years, doing this with multiple groups, multiple students, those kinds of things. And it is as much and as easy as it is to use this format, it can get a little tiresome because you are on the computer and sometimes people can be noisy and those kinds of things. So we're going to keep this pretty short and sweet just so that we can keep going, all right? If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and just put it out there, or you can put it in the chat. I've got my chat open all the time too, so you'll be able to see that as it's existing as well, all right? Everybody good? Thumbs up or thumbs down. All right, very cool. All right, so a couple things that we needed to talk about this week. First of all, the waiver forms. Thank you, everybody, on getting those waiver forms in. We have a grad assistant who's collecting all those things for us, and he didn't look in anybody's folder for the waiver forms. So if you put your waiver form in the folder itself, chances are we've got it, so you don't have to worry about that. If you didn't turn it in, we will be sending you another email, all right? So don't worry about that. It's just one of those paperwork things that we have to get taken care of, all right? Second thing, placements. I added a couple, 2 or 3 new listings to it. And I also sent out a Sign Up Genius poll. If you are interested in going to Lower Brule, to New Tech down in Sioux Falls, and or to Harrisburg to their Personalized Learning Center, we're going to do those as tours. The New Tech and Harrisburg do tours, and we can put you into one of those tours. We do have a couple of New Tech teachers who have signed on. One of them is a former graduate who's working down there right now. If you don't know what New Tech is, it's a problem-based institution, and so basically they work on problem-based entities, groups, those kinds of things. It's a newer, I can't call it a charter school, but it's a newer focused school in Sioux Falls. And so we can, if you sign up on there, we'll get you hooked up. Lower Brule, again, we're working through them, through a couple of different entities, and we'll get a few of you to go out together rather than just going individually. That'll make life a little bit easier for everybody if we can get that done, okay? That was sent out. Please sign up by the 15th, and then we'll start putting those tours together. We'll start putting those opportunities together and get everybody who wants to go will get an opportunity for that to go through, all right? Everything with Ed Psych that we were going to deal with tonight, we're going to do next week because there's a lot of activities that we're doing, and this just isn't the format to do those activities. So we're going to do all of the Ed Psych stuff next week, okay? All right, so next thing, I'm going to share my screen here with you so that you can see some of the stuff that is in D2L that we need to talk about. All right, so in D2L, one of the biggest things that you need to think about for next week is underneath content again. Can everybody see my screen? If you can't, send me a chat and we will see what we're dealing with there, why it's not going through, okay? So next week, we're gonna do what's called a jigsaw. And a jigsaw is really an opportunity for, let's say 4 people in a group to get together, and each of those is an expert on a particular area. So the jigsaw that we're gonna be dealing with next week is listed underneath week 6, and each of you have been assigned a specific reading. So if you did the bowline knot for RTL1, if you did that particular task, you're going to only read this section. If you did the origami, you're only going to read this section. If you did semaphores, only read this section, and so on down the line. And what your goal is you really need to become an expert about that particular piece of information. So in this one right here, it's all about self-efficacy, confidence, resources, those kinds of things. Here, it's all working off Angela Duckworth's idea behind grit, and how do we get students to be really gritty in what they do, and how do they keep going, and how do they find the motivation, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. And on the origami, we're going to work, and I know some of you are reading Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, but this is all about a particular element within that book itself. And this one right here, those of you who did the bowline knot, you're going to read about motivation and education. How do we motivate our students to be learners rather than just toads in the classroom? And so your information that you need to look for next week is all in this section right here. Find the RTL that you did. This is the stuff that you'll become an expert on. Then next week, we'll model this jigsaw modeling of delivery of information. That's also how you're going to be doing your book, the book that you are reading in class in your book groups. That's also how you'll be delivering that information down the road too. So again, find all of this, and then you will be able to, we'll deliver that information next week. We've got a couple of things going on. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I'm hearing me. Oh, I'm hearing me. Cool.
Sounds like she just needs to mute her mic or something.
Yeah, somebody's
headphones.
Somebody's headphones. Who has headphones? Who has headphones? All right, hang on. Hang on. All again. There we go. All right. Now it's better? No more feedback? Cool. Nope. All right. So I'm going to go back here to sharing my screen. All right. So those jigsaw models. Now, some of this is going to be using your iPad. So for example, if you're here, you literally have an iTunes book that you need to, it's free, obviously. It's a free book. It's just a portion of it. But this right here will be the link that you literally need to go through. And if you've never done an iTunes book before and you need some help with that, please contact me and I'll be able to help with that, all right? All of these right here, you should have already downloaded the app for YouTube. You've got some more iTunes stuff that you need to do. This specifically is a podcast that you're going to listen to. But all of these should be able to be done on that iPad that you had to work with, all right? Use that tool right now, because that's how a lot of your information in your classes are going to be delivered. A lot of schools have those iPads as their one-to-ones, especially for the middle school and the K through 8. So we want you to use those as much as possible, all right? Everybody good with that so far? All right, I don't have any questions yet anyway, at least not in the chat. If you do, go ahead and put it there, all right? All right, so I'm gonna stop the sharing here too so I can see my chat the whole time. Field experience, does anybody have any questions about the field experience as it exists? Are your teachers getting back to you? Are you getting those opportunities? Is there any issues that I need to deal with outside of class itself that we're having issues with? No? Life is good? All right, good. So our first check-ins, again, are that week of the 21st, right? And so don't forget to be doing and having your teachers sign off on Dun, 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 dun. Oh. And signing off on your sheets. This check-in tracking sheet number 1. That's where you keep track of everything. And if you remember, so you'll mark down when you did your flip grids, you'll respond to that, your RTL, a little bit of stuff that I want you to think about before that, your book club meetings, and this will change a little bit because we're not going to do this tonight. And then this right here we're going to talk about in just a minute. And then this right here, make sure that you're getting your teachers to sign off on this. And again, this is kind of important. This is your validation, your proof. This is your thinking before that big meeting, okay? All right, so let's talk about this big focus question. This big focus question is the research that I said you were going to be doing and then presenting on at the end of the year at the Empowering Education Conference. And when you think about this right here, it's really an inquiry-based research. And what you need to do is you need to think about what it is that intrigues you. What questions do you have? What things are you seeing as a theme at all of your placements that you want to dig a little deeper into? And that could be anything from student motivation to curriculum decisions, to textbook decisions, to it could be something about classroom management. It could be a 1,012 different things that are going through your head. Again, go back to that passion that you have that you're seeing in the classroom, something that you're seeing you really want to spend some time with. That right there, we're going to talk about at that first check-in meeting because you need to start developing that inquiry question. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, and I have made these live as well. So underneath content, and then underneath the field placement lab, no, it's going to be here, the lab student information, all right? So you've got 3 things here. And now these are examples of posters that were done previously. And so I'm going to bring up this first one for everybody to look at. If you've got your D2L open too, you can look at it as well. So what you're doing here is you're going to put your question, you're going to put one of your findings, one answer that you are finding from that field research, that'll go first. And then the support from it. What are you seeing in the field that helps support your finding? So if you were going to do something like, a big thing is using point system to reward kids for good behavior or for turning in homework. And so you want your research question to be something about that reward system. Do reward systems truly work in a school system? That could be your big research question. And through your field experience, you're going to find answers to that question based upon the support or the research that you see in the field itself. Now, we're not looking for a giant category here. We're not looking for you to write a master's thesis. We're not looking for you to write a 20-page paper. We literally just want you to start doing that field research in terms of what you're seeing in the field itself. All right, I have a chat question here. My computer is not letting me bring it up beside you. Okay. Okay, so music ed, you don't have to do this part of it. So just listen to us for a little bit because you will be doing this next semester or when you go out and do your field experience, but music ed, you won't have to do that this time through, okay? Is that good? I think that answers it. All right, so.
Yeah, so does that mean we actually won't be doing a research project this
Correct.
semester then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We tried really hard to get you involved in that, but something about you guys are really busy and all that other fun stuff.
Well, I'm right now in the Performing Arts Center, just in one of the green rooms, so
Awesome.
there's the recital hall.
Yeah, you guys have a thing tonight, don't you?
Well, we had things all day, but
Did ya?
it kind of got canceled.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
It's crazy.
most of it got canceled.
Oh, bummer. I hate it when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so back here to D2L, and we're going to go into a specific one here now. So we've got 2 examples of prior field posters. So this one right here, dealing with how assessment supports student engagement. So when you look at this, they really knocked it back to authentic audiences. Then they found that students working in the field tended to be more driven when given an audience other than with another teacher or other students. This was their first conclusion. This right here is and are the facts that they saw through all of their field experiences that help support that conclusion, that hypothesis. This right here were the objectives that they focused on through their field experience to help answer that question. This is really like doing a research paper, but we're putting it in a different format that knocks it back into something that's visually seen without having to read through a bunch of text. This is going to be a poster size poster, okay? I'm going to show this other one up here. And again, these are in the lab students' information. All right. This one right here, what about assessment supports student engagement? Same thing, different format. Everybody see how that works? All right, so this is new to just about everybody in terms of looking at it in terms of education, but it's not different than what you're already doing in your content areas. Most of you have done research-based projects in your content areas already. Now we want you to take that idea to the pedagogy behind education. Coming up with the question has been, the last 2 semesters, that's been the biggest problem. But again, I go to that passion that you have. What are you really seeing in the classroom that makes you go, what is that happening for? Why does that happen? And a lot of that is going to come from the ed psych. Well, why do students not show up on time for school? Why do students not do their homework? How come there's an increased attendance in ag and FACS and PE courses as opposed to those seniors who are taking calculus? Why don't we have so many more students taking calculus than we do PE when they're seniors? All of those things are things that you can think about. And a lot of those are going to start developing the more you're in the field, the more things you start seeing, and tying to that ed psych that we're going to deal with an awful lot next semester or next week. So when you think about your big research question, think about it in terms of those 3 things. What really, really drives my own passion, what drives my desire in the classroom, and what am I seeing over and over and over again that I can do that inquiry-based research on. Most of you know already that when you go through your residency 1 and 2, those of you who are in the full year, and I think that's just about everybody except for music, right? And ag and FACS, they're all still based on, but the ag and FACS are doing the capstone. That capstone course now is going to be very similar to this, except that's going to be a much bigger project than this one is. This is kind of that baby step toward doing it. It's that scaffolding toward getting to that big research project that's going on. Does anybody have any questions on that? That's kind of in a nutshell what's going on there, and I'll talk a little bit more about it next week. But does anybody have any questions? Not seeing any questions. Everybody's still kind of awake. I love all the backgrounds that are different. All right, we're moving on. Again, if you have a question, don't hesitate, right? All right, the next thing that I want to talk about is adding again another element to your professional development as it's existing, right? And that's going to be the podcast. Podcasts, are those radio programs that are short in nature, that are informative in nature, and you guys are the generation of podcasts. You're the reason that they exist. So we're gonna introduce some of the podcasts to you. So again, in D2L, you have a podcast underneath content, and I pointed this out the first night where you've got a ton of different podcasts that are in there. I have now added a required page. And in that required page, I have added 4 podcasts that I want you to add to your podcast list. You're going to subscribe to these 4. Now, 3 of these are live. This one isn't live yet. It probably won't be live for another couple of weeks, but there is a teaser there for what's going to be happening. Now, each of them talks about something very different in terms of education. This one right here is going to give a little bit of a comedic value to it, the Nerdy Cast. House of Ed Tech is going to deal with technology in education, that integration of technology, not just using technology for technology's sake. Truth for Teachers it's actually got some humor base to it, because the people who are doing that particular podcast are teachers themselves. So they're talking about what to do to survive, how to find that life balance. That student who just annoys you, how do you get over it? What do you do about it? And this one right here is really all about innovation and change of education. Now, if you don't know how to do this on your device, there is a podcast. If you do a search on your iPad for podcast, there is an iPad pre-formatted app for podcasts. And you can search for this one right here, you'll search for Learning Unboxed, or you can click on this. That link will take you there as well. This one right here, you're going to search for Truth for Teachers. This one, you're going to search for House of Ed Tech, and this one, you're going to search for Nerdy Cast. And then there will be a subscribe button. So what I want you to do is to subscribe to those 4 podcasts and start listening to them. Now, here's key to this. You cannot spend your entire life doing nothing but listening to podcasts. I mean, it's kind of a cool idea, and there's worse things that you could do with your life, but there's a lot of different episodes in here, so they're not, it's not like Netflix where you just sit down and watch it for 2 days straight, right? So you're sitting there for 10 minutes, you want to take a break, listen to a podcast. Or you're in the car, you're driving home, you have a 20-minute drive, listen to a podcast. Find a couple of episodes that you really like and just start listening to them. And then we will expand on that as the semester goes along. I'm going to have you in the Flipgrid this week comment on a podcast, and it'll be any podcast that you have listened to. But it'll be about the podcast that you listen to and how it fits with everything that's going on. All right? Questions? Anybody? Dun, 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 dun. None so far? I'm looking through my list. Waiver forms. So next week, make sure you complete the Flipgrid. You've got check-in meetings that are occurring. You've got field experiences that you are all involved in. Sign up on Sign Up Genius, right? Field placement. Life is good. All right, so next Thursday is going to be pretty heavy with that Ed Psych, much more so. There's a reason we kind of split it, but I knew I wanted to get you guys started on this. So next week you've got the jigsaw that we're going to be doing. We've got lots of activities to do with the Ed Psych, so bring your creative mind. Start reading your book. You'll have book club for a very short amount of time next week. Other than that, life is good. Anybody have any questions? Yeah. I'm going to stay on here for just a second. So I think somebody's typing a question.
I have a question, Mary.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are we still teaching our book club next week, or is that moved back a week?
You weren't teaching next week. You were going to be teaching the 21st.
Oh, JK.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Next week we'll model that jigsaw model that you'll use in the teaching of your stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
No problem. Anybody else have any questions? Oops, maybe is there a date set for the tours yet? There is not a date set for the tours yet. We need to kind of figure out how many we have. If we have 2 or 3, we've got a good list started already. We might do it 2 or 3 different days, but we'll try to get something together that is conducive to everybody going. We don't want to just set a date, and if you can't make it, then you don't get to go. This way we can work with your schedule a little bit better than if we just set a date and then nobody could go on that date anyway. For the observations, if I observe 2 different classes from the same teacher, would that count as 1 point or 2 points? That's a good question. It all depends on what those 2 classes are that you're seeing. So if you were in seeing Mr. Smith and he taught Chemistry 1 and he taught biology, those are 2 very different approached classes. The content is different, the grade level is usually different, and there are a lot of different things that occur in that classroom. You could argue that would be 2 points. If you're in seeing Mr. Smith and you're watching him teach Physical Science 1, and then the 2nd section of Physical Science and the 3rd section of Physical Science, that's basically the same experience. You're just getting 3 different views of it. So that would only be 1 point. When do we need those questions for research decided by? You should be working on that. I'll be honest with you. All research is something that is done over time. You should have a good idea of what you want to do when you come for your check-in meetings, but I fully expect that after you get through the ed psych stuff and you see a few more things in the classroom, some of your research questions will start to mold and meld and modify. And so start with an idea and then we'll work from there. It's not going to take you a long time to gather that research because you're all collecting research already in your field notebooks. You're getting that information already written down. So start with an idea and then it'll meld as we go along. What do you think on point values for special education classrooms? That is a really good question. If I'm understanding it right, are you talking about like giving for behavior? I think that's where you're coming from. I am not a points for behavior or points for getting homework done or points for anything that is going to be something that is tied to an action that a student does. So if a student does is bring a, can I give him a 0? What am I assessing? That he didn't bring his homework? I mean, I'm not going to put a grade in the grade book for failing biology because he failed it because he didn't bring his homework, right? I think there needs to be 2 different distinctions there: classroom management and behavior and assessment of actual learning that goes on. There's a lot of teachers that will give points for if you turn your homework in on time, you get a point. Every job I've ever had hasn't given me extra money because I've done the job I was hired to do. And that's kind of the way I look at that. So behavior, classroom management type things, I'm not for points at all. I want to give points for things that the students are truly being assessed on learning. I think that answers your question. If it doesn't, ask another one. Are the field trips a university excused absence? Yes, they are. Awesome. Anybody else? Did I answer the point question? Is that what you were thinking? I'm going to guess that a lot of you are seeing a lot of classroom management type styles as you go out in the classroom. Here's my advice on that. You're all going to be put into situations that you can handle, that you can't handle. And the one thing that you guys are all going to do is you're going to take all of those different styles that you're finding and seeing, and you're going to say, this is what I'm going to do. And then you're going to get put into a situation and you're going to say, yeah, that doesn't work so much. Classroom management is an evolution. It is not this is the way it works. I had a student teacher the other day who taught a lesson for the first time to middle school kids, and everything went fabulously. It was golden. They answered her questions. They all cooperated. They all did everything. And the next week, she taught those very same kids, and she went home in tears wondering why she was going to be a teacher, because those same middle school students, they didn't act the same way. And that's kids, because kids are human and humans are fallible, right? One day we're having a good day, the next day we're not having a good day. You just need to be consistent is what you need to do in all of those things. There are a few college classes that, this is another question. There are a few college classes that the professor is allowing me to come in and observe or help. How often can I go to this classroom, and how does the point stuff work for college classes you help with? Let's come in and have that conversation with me, because we really want your experience to be K-12, but I'd love to hear what you're saying. So come on in and have that conversation with me, okay? Another question. I saw that for our first check-in, we need 5 visits. Is that 5 different visits at different locations or just 5 visits in general? Just 5 visits. And again, that's going to be a little bit modifiable because, as you know, South Dakota in February, we don't have school. I've never seen South Dakota State cancel school at all in my lifetime, and I know they did it once in 2004, and they've already done it twice this semester. And the high schools and K-12 schools, it's crazy town out there. I think most of them won't have school until noon tomorrow either. So keep that in mind. Some of you might have been planning to go out and then they didn't have 3 days of school because it was, you know, hell had frozen over, and what are we going to do about that? So yeah, keep that in mind, all right? Other questions? All right, so the other thing I want to show you about this program, it downloaded the app on your thing, on your device that you are using. I want you to figure out how to schedule a meeting because later on this semester, when you start doing a couple of those lesson plans, I'm going to have you create a lesson where you have to also integrate this kind of technology. This is a great tool for those students who may be home right now with whooping cough. We've got an outbreak right now down south of us. They had one in Harrisburg, and now they said there's a couple in Sioux Falls. That kid's not going to come to school until that whooping cough is done, right? You've got mono. You know the kid can kind of sit up, but they can't go to school. This is another device. They can still kind of integrate themselves into the classroom. They can see everything that's going on. And it's just a way to bring people into the classroom where they may not be able to be there. And so this is, again, another one of those tools that I'm going to want you to be able to use on your computer, on your tablets, on your iPads, on your phones. All right, so find the app wherever it loaded, and you'll find a spot called Schedule, and that's how you schedule it. All right? Awesome. Other questions? Wow, everybody is good? I'm so glad that they canceled classes that occurred after. I didn't know there were classes on campus after 5 o'clock, so who knew? Yes, everybody else is done with with winter. Garrett just asked if everybody is done with winter. Yes, very much so. Florida sounds good right now, except for the gators and bugs and stuff. Awesome. All right, you all know I'm here. If you need something, if you have a question, send me a text, send me an email. I usually get back to you right away. Good call. Thank you for that one. Brookings has they do have a parking ban after 9 p.m., so don't park on the streets. And they did not say that they would not tow tonight. So my guess is that they are going to tow and ticket instead of ticket and leave you be. So if you have a car on the streets, move it. Because I think they take it to Aurora, don't they? Talk to Freddie. We're supposed to talk to you to know about Florida. Freddie, should we all move to Florida?
People are okay.
I went to Florida last year.
Did you go to Florida?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah.
Do you want to go back?
I went to my grandpa's house and played there.
Nice.
Yeah.
You like South Dakota though too, don't you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Oh, and the Wellness Center closes at 8 p.m. tonight, so if you're going to go exercise, go do that. I'm not going to exercise. I'm going to eat lots of pasta. All right, teachers. If you need me, I'm here. If nothing else, we'll see you next Thursday. Don't forget to do your Flipgrid, do the readings, and work on your jigsaw, okay? Become an expert in just your section. All right. Have a good one, everybody.